This happened in New Zealand. I was travelling to the airport to fly back to Australia, and I'd been delayed in the traffic. As I got to the outer skirts of the airport, I noticed the Air New Zealand tail moving out away from the terminus. Therefore I knew that I'd missed my flight. Since I started flying in Sydney when I was 18, at Bankstown Airstrip, which is adjacent to Sydney International, I was quite familiar with the way aircraft work and the ways of all the airlines. I knew I'd missed my flight. However, I walked into the terminus and I sat down in the empty terminal area on a lounge. The next flight was in 24 hours. And I pulled out a little New Testament I had in my pocket and I started to read it. Resigned to the fact that I was just going to have to wait there for 24 hours before I could leave. About 5 minutes later, an old man came along in white overalls, sweeping the floor. And he walked past me, he said hello, and I said hello, and he kept on sweeping. I kept on reading. And he turned around and he came over and he sat next to me. And he said, "How are you?" And I said, "Oh, good. How are you?" And we talked about a few things for a few minutes. And then he said to me, "What are you doing sitting here?" And I said, "Well, I just missed my flight to Sydney, Air New Zealand, so 6:01. And he said, "Oh, we'll do something about that." And he pulled a radio out of his pocket, and on it he called up, he said, "Hold Air New Zealand flight." Now, as I was familiar with all workings of the aerodrome and airlines and planes, I imagined that he was somehow holding the plane at what is called a holding bay, where the pilots do all their takeoff checks, pre-takeoff checks, which is quite an amazing thing. And he said, "Come on, let's go." And I got up and grabbed my bag, and we went through the terminus, down the stairs into a buggy, and we started driving out to the holding bay. And it took us quite a while, and when we got to the holding bay, I noticed that aircraft was not in the holding bay. The aircraft was lined up on the international runway, ready for takeoff. Now, the back stairs came down. Everybody on the plane was looking at me. And I walked up the stairs and got on to the plane, and they shut the door and we took off. Now, I believe that old man was an angel, because nobody has the right to do that. Nobody has the right. The captain has a say, the air controllers have a say, and they never ever load any passengers at the end of the runway. Maybe they used to load you if you just missed the flight at the boarding gate. Never have I ever really seen anybody load anybody in the holding bay, and never ever have I even heard of anybody being loaded at the end of an international runway onto a Boeing. And we departed, and I flew safely to Sydney. Amen.